what I would like to show you is the time-phased BOM component. So in IVP, we can model time-phased BOMs for tactical planning. So we can choose to have different component coefficients of the BOM component as a function of time in IVP. And when the system plans production, it will create dependent demand for the components based on the component coefficient of that particular bucket, not using the regular BOM. So this is a very helpful feature for chemical industries, and we can do it in S&OP process. We can do simulations. We can model different simulations with see the impact, and then adopt whatever changes we like into active version. So that's one thing. Then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the batch visibility in IVP. So in IVP, we can bring in the individual batches of the stock that is available at manufacturing location or the DC. And we can see that batch stock within IVP with the batch characteristics as well. So we can map each and every characteristics for the batch from your ERP system into IVP. Okay. So one key thing that I would like to touch upon is that the tactical planning that we are doing in time series, that planning horizon could be 2 years, 2 to 3 years, or much longer, depending on the customer's requirement. But the result that we get from tactical planning is a rough cut capacity plan, right? And this plan has to be planned in a much more granular fashion using the order series. And that's the handover that we will do now. So going back to the presentation again. So the next step in the process is to pass on the constraint plan that we have generated in the tactical planning to order series for a more closer look in a short-term window. So within order series, what we're going to look at is how we transfer the plan from time series to order series, the result of the constraint forecast run, the production plan with capacity constraints, and the deployment plan, as well as the order details for planned orders or production orders in IVP, and the allocation that we generate within IVP, which we're gonna hand over to S/4HANA. Okay, so going back to the BOI. So I'm going to use web-based planning for order series, just for simplicity. So in order series, we have this first view, which is the forecast constraint view. Here what we see is the constraint forecast that we received from time series. So the result of the time series tactical planning is transferred to order series as constraint forecast, and we do an optimizer run within order series to generate the constraint forecast, right? So the difference between order series and time series here really is that order series is able to create a plan at in daily buckets, right? And the tactical planning that we did was weekly buckets or monthly buckets, depending on how we choose to do it. So we get the constraint forecast, and in my example, the constraint forecast is always matching with the forecast that we received from time series. There is no difference. But please keep in mind that order series in this example is supposed to run every day, and whatever changes that you get in supply situation or a demand, if you get a higher sales order, then those situations will make this plan a little bit variable as compared to time series. But largely it should keep tallying with the time series planning. Okay, so now the other view that I wanted to show was the deployment view. In the deployment view, we will see more colors of the plan. So in the previous view, we only had the forecast and constraint forecast. Here, what we see is all the demand and supply elements across the supply chain. So if we just focus on this product 21, this is the factory specific data that you see here. What we see here is the distribution demand from deployment, right? So, and distribution demand which is planned. So the total distribution demand is about 6.6 million at the factory. And what we see here is the receipt side of things. So we have initial stock of 150,000 and production planned for 4.2 million. Now I'll show you the order information. So 4.2 million, how it is all made up of, how many planned orders it is made up of. We can see all those details here. So basically we have 3 planned orders. So 2 of these planned orders starting with this T series, these are created within IVP after the planning run. And the second planned order that we see here is 12321. This planned order has come from S4HANA, because in S4HANA, if we fix a planned order, that planned order remains as fixed for planning in IVP. If you focus on these 2 columns, so fixed for planning, so that means IVP cannot delete or change this planned order. IVP can always create additional planned orders or adjust existing IVP planned orders within IVP. So any planned order that is created within IVP is not fixed for planning. It is changeable. Okay. Now, if we wanted to see the pegging information, we could simply click here and it will take us to pegging. But I'll just move on to the next phase, which is the allocation. So once we have completed the order-based planning, we copy the constraint forecast into allocation. As you can see here, we have copied the constraint forecast from order series into allocation, and we see the sales order information, how much sales order is coming through, how much it is consuming, and all that in this view. And then in our scenario, we are passing the allocation back to S4HANA, and we are doing the allocation check and ATP check within S4HANA, not in IVP. The other thing that I would like to talk about is this intelligent visibility, which is the latest feature in SAP IVP. So this is a visual tool available in the web UI where all your network is mapped out on a global map. Along with that, we can also see the cluster of locations and the alerts that we have defined in the system here highlighted in red. So if I just click on this red box, it will show me all the locations which are included in this cluster, and I get this number 3 against 3500. So this is the distribution center against which we have a couple of alerts. So these are the alerts that we see. Sales orders are not being delivered on time. So that's the alert. And you can go into further details on the same screen, and it will show you the details of the sales order. And if you wanted to see some gating factors, it can show you that as well. Now with that, I conclude my demonstration within IVP. So the result of this whole process is the allocation that we pass over to S4HANA, as well as the planned orders and deployment STRs that we pass over to S4HANA. So that I'll hand it over to Sandeep. Sandeep, please go ahead. I'll stop sharing.